The place, New York City. The time, February 17th and 18th of 1996. The event, the very first tournament of the Magic the Gathering Professional Tour. 238 of the world's best Magic players arrived in New York City, all hoping to earn the right to call themselves the first professional champion.
I'm Paul Abbott, UK Type 1 champion, 1995.
John Griggs from Pasadena, California.
I'm Elaine.
And where are you from?
Right outside New York.
Raul, Missouri.
Wow.
Same place as Zach Dolan.
And where are you from?
I'm from Belgium.
Olympia, Washington.
I'm from Miami, Florida.
London.
From Germany.
My name is Norman.
And where are you from?
I'm from Germany too.
I'm here to play Magic.
Here to play Magic?
Here to play Magic.
The festivities began Friday night as all the competitors were invited to a reception where they could meet both with their fellow players and with the tournament staff. The master of ceremonies for this event was none other than Magic the Gathering's designer, Richard Garfield.
It's pretty exciting. It's a lot of fun talking to the players, seeing what strategies they're evolving and what they think about taking Magic seriously, which is what they're starting to do.
I've put several hundred hours in.
I didn't sleep last night, playtesting with my friends.
I went on tour in Europe and went all over Europe playing some of the top players.
I maybe spend, 6 hours a day at least.
I don't usually play Type 2, but I've spent like the last month just playing nothing but Type 2.
Some people are going to be able to make a good living this year through the pro tournaments.
The format for the professional tour is designed to keep players on their toes, requiring competitors to adapt to a brand new format premiered at this event. A Type 2 variant, the format required that all decks include at least 5 cards from each of the available Type 2 sets: 4th Edition, Chronicles, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, and Homelands. As a result, the competitors had a lot of interesting decisions to make. Scaff Elias, the mastermind behind the Pro Tour, explains how the professional circuit elevates Magic the Gathering to a new and exciting level.
I really felt that that the game could support a high level of competition, and that at the highest level of competition you should be rewarded.
Once you give away money, it seems like the whole world says, oh, this must not just be a little game kids play. And so it's becoming a legitimate sport, something that, a respectable sport.
It's a sport in that it's highly competitive, and an intellectual sport like chess.
I can go and put 60 cards, any 60 cards I want, out of several thousand. I mean, that's a very intriguing possibility, that I'm matching my wits, not just my gameplay, not just luck, but my own strategies, my own intelligence to try to defeat numerous opponents.
I take games very seriously. I have taken games seriously for a long time. The reason I take them seriously is because I consider them the intellectual counterpart to sports. I think they exercise your brain. I would love to see games raised to the stature of intellectual sports. I want to wish you all good luck, and I really want you to have a great time.
The tournament began with 7 rounds of Swiss-style play, with each match consisting of 3 duels. At the end of the 7th round, the top 16 ranked players all advanced to the finals, where they would fight for the championship title in a single elimination bracket. From this point on, a single match loss would result in removal from the tournament. The duels were hard fought, but in the end, only 2 players walked away with a spotless 7-0 record. Mark Justice, the 1995 United States National Champion, and George Baxter, renowned Magic strategy author. Although several big names such as Justice, Bertrand Lestrade of France, Andrea Reddy of Italy, and Eric Tam of Canada managed to make it to the round of 16, the most interesting aspect had to be the number of new names entered into the bracket. The final 16 were Christopher Bishop from Charlottesville, Virginia, Jim Lemire from Southborough, Massachusetts, Sean Hammer Regnier from Manchester, New York, Eric Tam, the 1995 Canadian National Champion, Nathan Wildgrub from New York, New York, Bruce Swinney, the 1995 Northwest U.S. Regional Champion from Tacoma, Washington, Bertrand Lestrade, the 1994 French National Champ and the 1994 World Championship finalist, Andrea Reddy, a member of the 1995 Italian national team. Preston Poulter from Irvine, California. Michael Loco Lacanto from Grafton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Leon Lindbach from Stockholm, Sweden. Sean Fleischman from the Bronx, New York. Dennis Bentley from Churchville, New York. Thomas Anderson from Täby, Sweden. Mark Justice, the 1995 U.S. national champion from West Valley City, Utah. And rounding out the Sweet 16 is George Baxter from Dallas, Texas.
It's like the NCAA, you know, when it gets to March Madness, you know, you see those 15s upset the 2s and stuff like that, you know. So anything can happen at that point.
Well, I'm going to have to get lucky against Justice. I've seen his deck, and it's rough. It's rough. I can beat a lot of the players, I think, in the finals, but if I get paired up early with Justice, I'll be out of there probably. I've got to get him, so I got to get the good draws.
I suppose luck, chance has got a big part at this level. You know, top 16. I guess the chance will make difference. Maybe also the sideboard. You know, good sideboard can do the difference. So I wait and see. I mean, I'm quite confident. I mean, I've done what I wanted to do to be in the top 16. So now, even if I lose, I mean, I'm happy. You know.
The only person that beat me was Bertrand, and he's a good player. I haven't played in any tournaments before, like of this caliber, and it was fun to meet him. He's like the top player that I played. So we'll see how things go. I think I can beat his deck. We'll see.
Here are the final 8 duels. We're going to take a look at them one by one. Mark Justice's red-white artifact deck was paired against Bruce Swinney, who fought hard against Justice but lost in a close 2-1 match.
I consider Bruce one of the top players in the world, you know, and so I was just very fortunate to get by him, you know.
So you looking to go all the way then? You looking to take this one?
One match at a time.
Yeah.
One match at a time, but every match gets closer.
Preston Poulter's green-white deck swept Thomas Anderson of Sweden in 2 straight duels. Michael Lacanto, using a blue-white millstone deck, faced off against Andrea Reddy of Team Italy. Lacanto defeated Reddy 2-0. Canadian national champion Eric Tam and his white-green-red big creature deck defeated Christopher Bishop 2-1. George Baxter, playing a red-black speed deck with a touch of green for Ernum Jins, took on Jim Lemire. Lemire succumbed to Baxter in 2 straight duels. We got Baxter's thoughts after the match.
Did you sweep him, or was it all 3 games? Okay.
I just went, you know, we just played 2 games and I beat him.
Were you worried going in?
Yeah, I'm always worried. I play like a rat in a cage, you know? It's like I always feel like I'm gonna die. I live with this total and complete feeling of, I lack confidence, which is good because you fight harder and you're a lot more attuned. You know, it's like, I'm gonna die, I've gotta survive, I've gotta win.
Leon Lindbach and his speedy black deck took on local favorite Sean Fleischman. Lindbach edged out the local favorite 2-1. Afterwards, Lindbach gave us his thoughts.
Is there anyone in particular that you're looking to beat when you go up in the next couple of rounds? Anyone looking to try and play Mark Justice or someone like that? Or?
Yeah, I think I would lose to Mark Justice. He's really good. His deck is really strong, but I hope I meet a blue and white deck.
Former professional arm wrestler Sean Hammer Regnier and his blue-white millstone deck was paired against Dennis Bentley. Regnier put the hammer to Bentley, sweeping him in 2 duels. Here were Hammer's thoughts.
Do you feel like the lights and the cameras and all the pressure makes any difference in the games?
Well, being from the big Hollywood state like New Hampshire, really no big deal. Actually, I wanted to be on stage because I said, what the heck, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory.
Bertrand Lestrade and his green-white deck went toe-to-toe against Nathan Wildgrub. Lestrade squeaked out a victory against Wildgrub 2-1.
Do you think that being on camera and under the bright lights will affect some of the players?
To tell you the truth, not for myself, but maybe for some of them, because actually you have to be very concentrated on your game, and you have to focus, and so sometimes if you are a bit concentrated, it can make the difference. But for myself, there is no trouble at all. I'm confident. I can play even with 200 people around me, with a camera, with whatever you want. I stay concentrated.
Tensions grew as the semifinals got underway. In each match, an unknown was paired up against an experienced tournament player. Preston Poulter faced his hardest battle of the tournament against favorite Mark Justice. Poulter gave us his thoughts on facing the U.S. champion.
I was like, I'm playing Mark Justice. There's no way. He's just going to stomp me and just go on about his business because I really didn't feel like I had that much of a chance.
It, however, was one of the biggest upsets of the tournament as he took 2 duels to Justice's 1.
And I began to realize as I was sideboarding against Justice's deck that I really didn't think he could beat me the second and third games because I essentially knew the key to his strategy and I could easily eliminate it. And so I felt I had a really good shot at it.
Leon Lindback was matched up against George Baxter. In another upset of the day, Lindback defeated Baxter in 2 straight games. Probably the most heated match of the semifinals, Lestrade took on Regnier. Tying the match at 1 duel piece when scheduled time ran out, they were given extra time to play one final game. The victor after a hard-fought game was Lestrade.
This guy was really a great player, I can tell you. He was really good. And also, this guy, has got I don't know if it's part of his strategy, but he's always talking, he's talking and talking and talking. So at the beginning, you don't mind, but after, I guess, 1 hour and a half, I began to lose my temper. But I say, oh, no, don't play his game, don't play, stay focused on the game, stay concentrated.
The final match had Eric Tam playing Michael Lecanto. Continuing the upset trend that came to define the quarterfinals, Lecanto beat Tam in 2 straight duels.
First game, I really thought I had him. I knew he had control magics and counters everywhere. And he on around the 5th turn, I had him a quick mana out, so I played a Sarah Angel. And he chuckled and he said, all right, I'll control it. But that time I only had 2 cards in hand. One was an Automo, one was a Balance, and one was a Swords Plowshares. That's 3, sorry. So, I swords my own angel after he controlled it. He walked right into my trap. Untapped my mana, played a land, balanced, tapped 6 mana in my pool, made him drop 6 cards. Played the Autumn Willow. I thought he'd be toast. I hit him like 6 times. I hit him like 4 times. He pulled like a Fountain of Youth, and then he recalled for a Wrath with only 1 white mana, and he drew a white mana on the very next turn. So he just pulled it out with about 4 hit points left. I thought I had him. Second game, the man's deck is decent. It's quite good. it stopped me completely.
Now, how are you feeling now? You're going into the quarterfinals. You're definitely already in the money, but definitely there's a lot of...
I feel pretty cocky. I'm ready. Because one of the guys that's also in it, I played earlier, and my deck did really good against his. And Bertrand is the only one that's beaten me, and I think he's still in it. So
yeah, Bertrand's still playing as we speak. So how do you feel about maybe the potential of playing Bertrand?
I think he's a good player. I think he's a really neat guy, and we got along good when we played. So I'd like to play him again. That'd be fun. Actually, I don't really want to play him again now that I think about it, but we may have to. Hopefully in the finals I'll play him.
By now, the players had played 15 hours of Magic over the last 24, hoping to make it into the finals. Leon Lindback was paired against Bertrand Lestrade. Every game was a hard-fought battle, but in the end, Lestrade managed to walk away with 3 straight victories. The last semifinal match paired Michael Lecanto and Preston Poulter. Lecanto, after 5 long games, defeated Poulter. Both the finalists talked to us after their matches.
If you beat him, are you gonna gloat, or are you gonna?
I don't know. I've already beat him, so.
He's the only one who's beaten me so far. So we'll have to see. We went 2 to 1. He won 2 to 1. So We'll have to see.
We've met before, and I mean, he's a nice guy. You know, he try. Sometimes he's a bit nasty sometimes, but it's part of his strategy. You know, when you play, he try to upset you, but no, he's nice.
You wear the white hat, and I'm going to wear the black one.
All right. We'll see.
While the Open tournament was being held, competitors 18 years and younger dueled for the title of the first junior professional champion. The junior tournament followed the same structure as its older counterpart, with an identical prize payout using scholarship money in place of cash. 17-year-old Aaron Klein of East Windsor, New Jersey, playing a white weenie deck, was paired against 17-year-old Graham Tatimer of Santa Barbara, California, using a speed black deck. Klein proved victorious in the first game as his small white creatures overwhelmed Tatimer. Tatimer got off to another slow start in game number 2, but managed to turn the tide with Necropotence, allowing him to take the second game. The third game proved to be a carbon copy of the first game, as Klein once again got off to an overwhelming start and swarmed Tatimer before he could build up a proper defense. It was do or die time, and the pressure was on Tatimer in Game 4. Tatimer fortunately got the cards he needed and managed to take the match to a final 5th game. Both Klein and Tatimer dueled admirably in Game 5, but in the end it was Graham Tatimer that managed to walk away as the first junior professional champion. Here's the victor being awarded his $12,000 scholarship check by tournament coordinator Karen Krisnick. Hello, Magic fans, and welcome to the final match of the first ever 1996 professional tournament for Magic the Gathering. I'm Sean Carnes. Along ringside with me is Henry Stern. He's going to be our color commentator for the festivities. He placed second at the U.S. National Championships and was a semifinalist for the World Championships all last year. Henry, it's been one heck of a weekend so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, Sean, it has. There's never been this many quality Magic players gathered together for one tournament before ever. I thought last year's World Championships were big. This is even bigger.
I definitely have to agree with you there. Well, let me ask you a question, though, as a professional player, Henry. What type of preparation is necessary for an event like this?
Well, first of all, you have to come up with a quality deck design. As you know, this tournament, you were required to use 5 cards from all the available expansions in Type 2. You had to think about which cards you want to use and also which cards your opponents might be using, thinking about how that might affect your deck design as well. Once you've come up with a quality design, you need to practice it against many of the touchstone decks, practice against white weenies and a red blast deck and maybe a control deck. Once, if it performs well then, you want to take it to a lot of your local tournaments and practice against as many quality opponents as you can.
All right, now, Henry, we're coming up on the final match. First off, we've got Bertrand Lestrade from France. He's the 1994 French national champion. He placed second at the World Championships in 1994 as well.
Yeah, he lost to Zach Dolan in those finals in a very close match. Bertrand's a very, very strong player.
All right. Now, he's going toe-to-toe against Michael Lecanto from Boston, Massachusetts, a virtual unknown quantity on the Magic scene.
Yeah, although Michael's pretty well known in the Northeast area, he hasn't played in a very large major tournament before.
This is pretty much his first big tournament. Now, what can we expect from these two players?
To better understand what we can expect to have happen in this final match, let's take a closer look at both competitors' decks. Michael Lecanto is playing a 62-card blue-white millstone deck. And this deck was designed to defeat an opponent not through damage, but by running them out of cards. He liked to control the environment and had a heavy creature suppression element.
Now, you mentioned creature suppression. What exactly is that?
Creature suppression refers to cards that are used to wipe out creatures, and Michael Lecanto has a lot of them. He's using 4 Wrath of Gods, 4 Swords of Plowshares, a Balance, 2 Control Magics, all of these spells can be used to wipe out his opponent's creatures. And what's more interesting is he uses 2 Icy Manipulators and 2 Blinking Spirits and the Mishra's Factories. All of those can be used to help stall out the Stray's creatures should he get him out. Suppose Locanto has out 1 Icy Manipulator. The Stray has 1 creature, it can't attack. Thus the Stray would have to have out 2 creatures in order to attack. That makes Locanto's Wrath of Gods all the more effective. But what's interesting is, Locanto's deck has a very light permission element for this style of deck.
Now, when you say permission, what exactly does that mean?
Permission spells are any spell that you can use to counter your opponent's spells. Obvious examples are counter spells and power sinks and spell blasts. And Locanto is, interestingly enough, only using 4 counter spells and 1 deflection. Usually in this type of deck, you expect to see quite a bit more counter spells.
So what are the weaknesses of this type of deck?
Well, the main weaknesses I can see are opponents with a lot of spells that need to be countered. Typically these are sorceries, such as Armageddon, Hurricane, Fireball. Even Hymn to Torah could be a problem.
So what's the most unique thing about this deck?
Oh, by far the most interesting, unique, and innovative card in Michael Locanto's deck is the Hallowed Ground. This card can serve actually 3 purposes for him. 1, he can use it on his Mishra's Factories, effectively turning them into Blinking Spirits. If the Stray attacks, Locanto can turn his Mishra's Factory into a creature, and then with the Hallowed Ground, block, and then return it to his hand. Also, he can use it as protection from Armageddon. If the Stray casts Armageddon, if Locanto has out the Hallowed Ground and enough white land, he could be able to turn 1, 2, possibly even 3 cards to his hand, thus negating the effects of the Armageddon. And finally, the Hallowed Ground can be used to allow him to land tax. During his upkeep, if they have the same number of land, he can use the Hallowed Ground to pop one of his lands back into his hand, giving him fewer than the Stray, thus allowing him to land tax.
Okay, Henry, it sounds like we've covered Michael Locanto's deck pretty well. What kind of deck is Bertrand Lestray going to play?
Bertrand Lestray was playing a 60-card green-white Urnum Armageddon deck.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by an Urnum Armageddon deck?
Well, Urnum Armageddon refers to the 2 most important cards in the deck, the Urnum Djinn and the Armageddon. His deck is really based around getting out a big creature, such as the Urnum Djinn or the Autumn Willow that he has, or the Sarah Angel, and then casting Armageddon. When he casts Armageddon, destroys all the mana, makes it very difficult for his opponent to deal with that big creature he has out there. In addition to these big creatures, he has a number of small creatures as well. 4 elves, a couple of orders of Leap Bearer, 2 spectral bears. A lot of times these small creatures can get out early and do some damage too.
Wow, that's a lot of offense, but what does he have defensively?
Well, Bertrand's deck surprisingly has a very strong defensive element, almost as strong as Michael Locanto's. He also has 4 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Wrath of Gods, 2 ICs, 4 Disenchants, and a Balance. Interestingly, these decks share a lot of cards in common, all of them white.
Do you see any weakness in this deck design?
Well, one of the potential problems with this deck is that the only way he has of dealing damage is through creatures. If his opponent is able to set up an effective creature defense, he could find it very difficult to win. I think a Hurricane or 2 could go a long ways in this type of deck. Another problem is that he's not playing with the Felden's Cane. You notice how his deck is set up to cast Armageddon, and he's also maybe using land tax to draw the land out of his deck to thin it down. In that type of deck, you really want to have a Felden's Cane to get a second chance at all that land. And since Locanto's playing a Millstone deck, I think Bertrand will really wish he had a Felden's Cane in his deck or in his sideboard.
Okay, Henry, these 2 decks are about ready to go head-to-head. How do you think they're going to interact with one another?
Well, it's going to be a very interesting match. Bertrand's going to try to quickly get out some creatures and hit Locanto fast, and Locanto's going to try to set up his defense, and he really needs to get out to 4 land quickly, because at 4 land is where most of his critical creature defense spells are, the Wrath of God and the Ice Manipulator. If Bertrand can come out fast and maybe cast an Armageddon, it'll be to his advantage, but if the game starts to stretch out long, I think Locanto's going to have the edge.
All right, thanks a lot, Henry, for that analysis. So let's go see what happened during game number 1.
So you were one of the dial-in...
And I got in once, and then I don't know what happened. I got connected to the wrong lady, and then it happened again, and I finally got through on my 3rd time. It took me like about an hour and 45 minutes of just redialing.
I understand you're wearing a team T-shirt. Can you show it to us?
Yes, of course. I mean, this is the French team T-shirt, and as you can see here, it's written in French, and it says, "Thank you for giving me money." And on the back, as you can see, the French team. And I mean, you know, it was just for fun, because with all of the French friends of mine who's here today, we've just decided to be cool, you know, and to make fun of this.
This is the first game of the final match. We've got Lestray on the left, Lecanto on the right. Both players get off to a big start right away by playing Ivory Towers on their very first turn. Henry Stern, can you explain the significance of the dueling Ivory Towers for us?
Well, Sean, both players were able to gain a lot of life off the Ivory Tower, and that certainly helps Lecanto more than it does Lestray. Since Lecanto's deck is based around running Lestray out of cards, he doesn't really care how much life Lestray has. But since Lestray can only win by getting Lecanto down to 0 life, that Ivory Tower turned out to be a big problem.
Now we pick up the action a few minutes later into the game. Both players have been steadily gaining life off the Ivory Towers. Lestray's now at 25 life and Lecanto's now at 30. Now Lecanto, after he plays a Mishra's Factory, is going to bring out an Icy Manipulator, and what he does with it will be, as Lecanto himself puts, something that will haunt him for the rest of the game. He's going to bring out the Icy Manipulator and tap a forest. Henry, two questions for you. First of all, why is that such a mistake? And second of all, why would he tap a land to begin with?
Well, he brings out the Icy, and then he uses it to tap Lestray's forest during Lestray's upkeep. And when he taps the land during his upkeep, he can't use it during his main phase. Generally, when you use an Icy in this way to tap someone's land, you want to deny them a color if you can. Notice he has 2 forests and 1 plains.
Right.
If he taps the plains, that means he couldn't cast any white spells during his main phase. But since he taps a forest, it just means that he can't cast a spell that costs 2 green to cast.
Was there anything in his deck that might have cost 2 green?
I believe he had Whirling Dervishes in his sideboard, but I don't think there was anything standard that cost 2 green.
Now, as Henry himself said, it leaves a white open for him to cast a white spell, and what a doozy he's going to cast. Right over there to the far right, that's Balance. Henry, tell us a little bit about Balance.
Well, Balance is certainly the most powerful spell in Type 2 right now. When you cast it, you have to equalize the number of lands in play, the creatures, and the cards in your hand.
Now, something interesting happens here after Lestray casts Balance. I noticed that they clear off all the land on the table. Can you explain why that's happening?
Well, what happens is Lestray casts Balance, and then he sacrifices his land to the Zurin Orb. Thus, he's using the Balance as an Armageddon. Since he sacrifices all of his land, gaining 6 life, now Lecanto has to sacrifice all of his land too.
He gained 2 for the Ivory Tower, Lestray did, gained 6 more, puts his life total at 33. It's now the end game, folks, and it's a grueling hour and a half into the match. Right now, Bertrand Lestray's in a serious amount of trouble. You can tell by the look on his face. Why is he in trouble, Henry?
Well, he only had about 10 cards left in his library at this point, and he desperately needed to get a Plains to cast a Serra Angel.
With that Plains, he would definitely get out that Serra Angel, and he is attacking with the Elf at this stage right now. We'll get to the Serra in a minute. The life count was 35 for Lestray, 39 for Lecanto. The Elf attacks makes it 35-38.
Yeah, he needed to do a lot more damage than just 1 a turn with the Elf if he had any hope of defeating Lecanto.
And at this stage, Lestray got out the Plains, got the Serra Angel into play with using the Elf as a little backup. My question to you, Henry, is why is Lecanto not playing any cards whatsoever?
Well, what happened earlier is that Lestray set up this whole situation by casting Armageddon. And Lecanto didn't want to play any land to this point because if he played a land, Lestray would be able to use his Fellwar Stones to get out his creatures quickly. Lecanto really wanted to he only had so few cards left in his library, he wanted to try to hold out and hope that Lestray would not be able to get creatures into play.
All right, it's back to Lestray's turn, and this time around he was going to attack with the Serra Angel. That'll drop the score to 34-34 even, but check out something here in his hand. By the way, why is he drawing 3 cards at a time there? What has he got to do?
Well, Lestray's been using the Sylvan Library.
I see.
Which, it allows you to look at 2 extra cards during your draw phase, and if you want to, you can pay 4 life per card to take those into your hand. And Lestray used that very effectively in the mid part of the game by trading in about 40 life or so for about 10 extra cards.
All right, there's an attack right there with the Serra Angel that drops it to 34-34, and he's also brought in an Autumn Willow, a 4/4 creature. Now, back to the idea about the life, he was able to get that much life through the use of his Ivory Tower, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, now yet again, we go back to Lecanto's turn, and Lecanto discards another card. Apparently he was sticking with a strategy right there, but it may be a little too late now that he has all those creatures out.
Yeah, at this point, Lecanto really needed to draw Plains. He had a Swords to Plowshares in his hand, and if he could have swords either he could only swords the Serra Angel. If he could have swords that, he would have been able to hold on and win the game.
Right, and at this stage, he's pulling his creatures down. These are the ones that he's going to attack with. The Serra, the Autumn Willow, and the Elf attack, and for a whopping 9 points of damage there, makes the score 34-25 at this stage. But the only hope that Michael Lecanto's got, and there was the attack right there, the only hope that Michael Lecanto's got at this stage is to run Lestray out of cards.
Yeah, he needed to draw planes so he could sort something. And he also probably should have been playing his lands earlier so that he could sacrifice him to the Zurin Orb.
Yeah, I noticed that. Lestray just tapped that Zurin Orb. Why would he want to do that?
Yeah, well, by doing that during Lecanto's upkeep, he denies Lecanto the ability to sacrifice a land to the Zurin Orb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, notice he has a strip mine out, so that even if Lecanto had played a land, he'd be able to strip it, and Lecanto wouldn't gain the 2 life.
Wow, and he's got 2 Icy Manipulators, too. He's totally got Lecanto. He had totally had him on the ropes at that stage of the game. Wow, and there goes Lestray's attack phase. A whopping 11 points of damage, but he's going to pump up the order to make it a total of 12, and that makes the score 34-13. And by this point in the game, Lecanto pretty much knew that the game was over.
Yeah, he was really on the ropes at this point. If he'd drawn a plains, he would have been able to survive for perhaps 2 more turns.
Do you think, Henry, that would have been enough to run Lestray out of cards?
No. Perhaps if he'd played some of his lands earlier and sacrificed them to the Zurin Orb, and if he'd gotten the plains and he could have killed one of the creatures, he might have been able to hold out. But as it turns out, that didn't happen.
He even had a control magic in his hand, but that would have been quite expensive to bring into play.
Impossible, because Lestray had the 2 ices out.
That's true. And at this point in the game, Lecanto decides he's going to go ahead and try and bring it out, but watch how effectively Lestray just shuts it down. First of all, taps it, making it effectively useless. Now, during Lestray's turn, he strips it, and while the Zurin Orb is tapped, he won't gain any life from it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And that pretty much wraps up the game. You notice that he's collecting his cards. At that point, Lecanto resigned. And the first game went to Bertrand Lestray of France, and that made the best-of-5 series start out at 1-0 in Lestray's favor.
Yeah, grueling match for
like an
both
hour
players.
And a half. Good grief. I have enough difficulty in 30-minute matches, but an hour and a half, wow. After the first game, our man on the floor, Mark Rosewater, spoke with the competitors.
So how are you feeling after the first game?
Not good. I'll be honest with you. I definitely should have won that game. I screwed up very early on. Made a major rookie mistake. When I had my icy out, he had 2 green and a white, and I tapped his green, and then he balanced and sacked all his land, and I lost control of the game right there. That game was mine. There's no excuse. I made a major mistake. And I see his sideboard is really tough. I don't know if I can, because when we played earlier, that's what killed me was his sideboard. I really wanted to take that first game from him. But we'll see what happens in the next game. I don't know.
Yeah, it was really, as you said, it was really close, you know. And I mean, maybe I was a bit more lucky because as we talked about it before, he should have win the first game because as he doesn't got a lot of creature in his deck, and my deck's got a lot of anti-creature stuff, you know. So I've got a lot of dead cards against him. So as you know, when you've got dead cards in your deck with your opponent, when you play against your opponent, I mean, it's not a good thing. So I mean, I guess I was quite lucky, you know, very lucky to win this one because to tell you the truth, if there is any probabilities or percentage, I should say there is maybe first turn there is maybe 70 for him and 30% for me, and I was more lucky the first turn. That's magic.
And now this was the second game of the series. Bertrand Lestray's on the left, Michael Lecanto's on the right. Bertrand's going first this time, and something interesting happened right off the bat. Lestray played an elf, and Lecanto responded by playing another ivory tower to match the one he played right after the beginning. Henry, Bertrand has a hard time dealing with those ivory towers. He's sort of unlucky.
Well, the ivory tower has been a recurring nightmare for Bertrand Lestray, going all the way back to the 94 World Championships.
Oh, wow. And that's where he lost to Zach Dolan, and one of the reasons is that Zach got out those ivory towers to begin with.
Yeah.
So, but this time, Bertrand's going to have none of that. He's going to play another land. He's got that disenchant in his hand, and he eliminated it right off the bat.
That was very, very important for Bertrand to stop that ivory tower right away.
Almost psychological to that aspect, too. It's sort of like, I'm not putting up with that garbage anymore.
Sure.
The players joking about it. A lot of good sportsmanship that went on in this event. And moving on to the second part of the game, at this point, you're going to really see Michael Lecanto's deck in action. Notice, for example, that Bertrand has an Urnum Djinn and an Autumn Willow in his hand. He's already got an elf in play too. Now, correct me if I get wrong here, Henry, but Lestray's strategy is to pound him with creatures, while Lecanto's is to merely hold off the creature attack, right?
Well, what Lestray wants to do is he wants to get out a sizable creature, either an Urnum, a Sarah, an Autumn Willow, and then blow up all the lands, so you have no way of stopping them.
Right. Now notice, check out his hand here. He's got, Lecanto has a Swords to Plowshares and a Wrath of God in his hand. Now, he definitely can stop the creatures. The trick here is Lecanto plays it in this order. He uses the Sword of Plowshares to take out the Urnum Djinn, and then later when Lestray plays the Autumn Willow, he uses Wrath of God. Why did he do it in that order?
Well, the amazing part is Lecanto really has no idea exactly what Bertrand has in his hand. I mean, it might make sense for most players to think, well, you can get out 2 creatures, why not go ahead and use the Wrath of God right now? But Lecanto knows that Lestray plays with the Autumn Willow. And the Autumn Willow is really one of the scariest cards in Lestray's deck for Lecanto to deal with. Lecanto can only cast Wrath of God or counterspell the Autumn Willow on its way out. Once it's out there, he can't use an Icy to tap it. He can't use Serrated Arrows to make it smaller. He can't use the Swords of Plowshares on the Autumn Willow.
Wow. And especially at this point in the game, you've already seen the Swords of Plowshares eliminate the Urnum Djinn. During Lestray's turn, he's going to bring out the Autumn Willow, and indeed, Michael Lecanto uses that Wrath of God to clean the board, and that's really how Lecanto's deck really works, and this is a good example of him taking control of this match in the middle stage of the game.
Yeah, the Wrath of God is a very key card for Lecanto's deck. His deck is based around creature suppression, stopping the creatures immediately and not letting them get out and hurt them.
Now, during this particular match, would you say that this has been the pace throughout the entire game thus far? That Lestray tries to bring something out, Lecanto shuts him down. Lestray tries to bring something out, Lecanto shuts him down.
Yeah, it seemed like Lecanto had an answer for all of Lestray's moves in the second game.
You can almost see he hasn't even played the card, but Lestray knows, here comes that Wrath of God.
Yeah, and there's an important card advantage that you gain also from the Wrath of God.
Right now, we're moving into the final stage of the game. Now, this is sort of mirrors what we saw in the first game. Both sides are developed, but this time, Lecanto has his cards in play, is not under the gun, but this time Lestray is. His library is running out. Now, does he have he's got the Sylvan Library in play. Your thoughts about this game thus far?
Well, also, he has the Armageddon in his hand, but he doesn't have a creature out yet to cast it.
So the object here is he's going to try and get out that creature, right?
Yeah, exactly. He needs to get out the creatures, and then once he had the creature out, he needed to cast Armageddon. But notice that Lecanto is very well set up. He has an Icy Manipulator, which he can use to hold off at least one creature. He has a Mishra's Factory and the Hollowed Ground, and he can use the Hollowed Ground, like we explained in the introduction, to use the Mishra's Factory as a blinking spirit.
Right. Now, check this out. He just played an order. And what he's tapping 2 and increasing his life. Is he getting that off the
Fountain of Youth?
The Fountain of Youth. All right, there. Now back to Lecanto's turn. He's got that control magic in his hand. You're going to see him play that on the order. Is that also a part of his strategy too? If he can't destroy him, he'll control him?
Again, it's just another anti-creature card. He's got the 4 swords, he's got the control magics, and extra control magics in the sideboard. He has the Wrath of Gods and the Ices. The whole deck is really set up to stop the creatures.
Okay, now this is kind of interesting too. With all these cards in his deck, does Michael Lecanto play with any millstones?
Oh yeah, he has 3 millstones as well. I mean, in this game, the millstones also came out earlier, but Bertrand was able to disenchant them in this game.
I see. Wow. So Bertrand Lestray plays with at the maximum 4 disenchants in his deck.
4 disenchant standard, and I believe he had 1 or 2 divine offerings in his sideboard.
Wow. Also, to check out Lestray's Black Vice there. Black Vice goes by the affectionate name Squishy, I guess.
Squishy. Well, notice what Bertrand is doing here. He has very few cards in his library left, and he's using the Sylvan Library and the land tax to shuffle up his lands. So what happened last turn is he used the Sylvan, he saw what his next 2 cards were, didn't like them. He has less land than Lecanto does, so he was able to use a land tax purely just to shuffle up his library. He doesn't have any more basic land left. He just used it to shuffle his library so he would get 3 new cards.
Wow. Interesting strategy indeed. Apparently, Bertrand Lestrade is a little bit disgusted about what's going on right now. Things are definitely not going his way.
Well, it is actually very close. He's able here to disenchant the control magic.
He does get back the order,
He gets back the order. He had the Urnum in his hand. I mean, it's really fairly close to the last game. The only difference is in this game, Lecanto is well set up with all that land in play.
So we go now to Michael Lecanto's turn, and on this particular turn, let's take a look at what he's going to do.
Both competitors spent a lot of time thinking about their moves. Since there wasn't a time limit, unlike the qualifying rounds, there was a very severe time limit. You had to play rather quickly. Here, they're able to really think through all their moves, and he decided just to let Lestrade go ahead.
Wow, both of them got just their faces wrought with concentration. Well, Henry, you were in the finals of the U.S. Nationals, and you were in the Worlds. Give us a little insight into what it is to be at this sort of level of competition.
Well, there's an intense amount of pressure. I mean, you've been playing for 8 hours already this day, and hours and hours the previous day. It becomes easy to make mental mistakes. It becomes easy to get mentally fatigued in a situation like this.
Wow. Back on Michael Lecanto and Bertrand Lestrade.
Yeah, he used the ice manipulator there to tap the order so it would do no damage.
Right. Okay. So basically, with his cards that he has in his hand and the ice manipulators in play, he's definitely shutting down. But now, at this point, Lestrade played the Urnum Djinn that was in his hand. He finally chose to pull it out of the cards he was selecting through Sylvan Library.
Yeah, and if Lecanto had no way of dealing with the Urnum Djinn, and if you look in his hand, in his hand he doesn't directly have any anti-creature cards.
Now he's looking through his graveyard. Why is he doing that there?
Well, this is moves that the good players do often, especially when you're playing a very slow deck. You want to get an idea of what cards have already gone by and what most likely is in Bertrand's hand. And notice that now if he has the ice, he has a disenchant, a Mishra's, and a recall.
And he disenchants at Sylvan Library.
Sure. I
guess he's going to try and at least shut him down to some respect. Yeah. And Lestrade only has like 4 or 5 cards left, right?
Right. But 4 or 5 cards, even with an order that he could pump up to 3, is enough turns left.
Well, and yeah, that's true. That's true, and especially at their low life totals right now.
Right. He had the counterspell, he had the Mishra's, and the recall. Turns out that the recall was certainly the key card for him.
Yeah, definitely. What Henry makes mention of, he's got a recall in his hand. At this point in the game, it can go either way, but when Michael Lecanto uses that recall to shove off one of the cards in his hand, he draws into his hand from his graveyard Balance. And we all know how deadly Balance can be, especially in this stage of the game.
Yeah, Balance... Once again, Balance is certainly the most powerful Type 2 card left in the game, and being able to cast it twice in one game, certainly an advantage for Lecanto.
Tom Wiley being the head judge for this match as well. Lecanto's turn. Any comments come to your mind at this stage, or is it just pretty much a waiting game to see what happens?
Well, again, he tapped the Urnum.
Right.
He got hit for 2 with the order, and he's actually kind of worried here about the possibility that he might have 2 Armageddons or might have 2 spells to cast. So he went ahead and recalled the Balance at this point.
Yeah, it looks like after he takes the damage, then I believe on this coming turn, Michael Lecanto did indeed use that recall, and that pretty much, and then that in my opinion, pretty much wrapped up the game.
Yeah, Bertrand here was checking to see how many anti-creature cards had been used, how many swords had gone by, how many Wrath of Gods had gone by, and he's got to feel pretty good because as he looks at it, he sees 3 Wrath of Gods. I think Lecanto had already used 4 swords, so Bertrand decided to go for it and put out that Djinn and hopefully try to get him down in these last couple turns.
Wow, yeah. Do you know if in the first game he had encountered that recall?
I don't think. Well, I don't recall if in the first game the recall had been cast or not.
Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Actually, these two players before this final series had met before in the tournament.
Sure. I mean, Bertrand certainly knows that Lecanto has a recall in his deck, but it's difficult to predict if it was in his hand or not.
Right.
See, now Lecanto's actually nervous because with just that one Icy, he can hold off one Djinn, but the other Djinn and the Order could do 6 points of damage a turn.
Right, and that's certainly enough, at least at their low life levels, to eliminate Lecanto from the game.
Yeah, even though Bertrand only had 2 cards left in his library at this point.
Wow, he certainly plays it close to the bone, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, both of these players, to get to this point, you can't be a bad player.
Right.
The bad players were eliminated a long time ago. Both these players are top Magic players.
I think I'll be sticking to the old game shop. And at this point, he does indeed, finally, we've been highlighting it, and here it is. He plays the recall. Now, recall's interesting. It sort of acts like a regrowth, but it's a little different. Can you explain why?
Well, when you use recall, it is in fact very similar to regrowth. The thing is, it costs blue and X, where the X is equal to the number of cards you wish to get back. And in order to get a card back, you have to sacrifice a card from your hand to the graveyard.
So in this case, he's only wanting to get 1 card back, but because there are 2 X costs, you have to pay 2 mana of any color in addition to the blue?
Right, so he had to spend 3 mana to cast the recall.
And indeed, he gets back that balance, and thinking he's always double, triple checking here.
Well, you don't want to make any mistakes at this level.
And indeed, he does play the balance at that time, and that pretty much wrapped it up. There's a little bit of land balancing and hand balancing they need to do, but the big thing, the creatures were removed.
Sure, and Bertrand only had now, I think, 2 cards left in his library, so he knows that the game is basically over.
Even at this stage, it would be my opinion that he would just probably no, okay, well, the game is over, I might as well go ahead and concede, but he plays on a little bit.
Well, he wants to see what his next card is, but I believe he conceded soon hereafter.
Yeah. Definitely, this was a tight game, and I really think that this was a good example of Michael Lecanto's deck in action. The denial, the ability to get rid of a creature when it comes out, the ability to control a creature either by tapping it or by using control magic to get it if it's going to be in play. Any additional thoughts, Henry?
Yeah, well, that is in fact the essence of Michael Lecanto's deck. It's creature suppression, stop the creatures, and the rest of the game will come to you.
And this is pretty much icing on the cake here for Michael Lecanto. He goes ahead.
Yeah, notice how he's using the Icy to tap one of Bertrand's land, just in case he got out a creature.
Yeah, and he noticed that Bertrand himself drew a Swords to Plowshares. But other than the Mishra's Factories, which can turn into creatures, do you know if Lecanto was playing with any creatures whatsoever?
Well, he had Blinking Spirits, which Bertrand doesn't know this, but I believe Lecanto took the Blinking Spirits out of his deck.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and he also has the Control Magics. So if he controls an Urnum or if he controls a Serra Angel, that could be a problem for Bertrand.
And indeed it might as well have been, because that wrapped it up right there. Bertrand Lestray resigns the match to Michael Lecanto, and that makes the match 1-1 out of this best-of-5 series. Once again, our man on the floor, Mark Rosewater, talks with the competitors after the game.
It was really close. I mean, I've done a few mistakes. Really, I did few mistakes. Especially, I had Armageddon in hand and Erdam Djinn. And I look at his graveyard and I saw, all right, he's got 4 Sword Plowshare, 3 Wrath of God, 1 Balance. So I thought, I'm all right. I mean, he's gonna counter this spell. But there is, I guess he couldn't Wrath of God it or whatever, and so I've played this card thinking he's going to counter it, but he didn't, and he did recall and take balance. That's killed me. And instead of that, what I should have done is played Armageddon first, because I mean if he counter Armageddon, I mean all right, I can have played my creature after that. You know what I mean? But and I could have won because actually he didn't have counters in hand. So I do Armageddon and I attack. Yeah. So I've done a few mistakes and that's what I lost. And I mean he's really great. I mean he's a good player. So You know, I know one big mistake, and you lose. That's it. That's the rules. That's magic.
I'm doing a lot better now mentally. I'm with it. Long games though, that's the problem. My deck's real slow. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what I tell you.
What point in the game did you really feel that you had it won?
When he gave up. That was it. He didn't know if what he was gonna do at the end.
Basically, we're in a situation where we had two very closely and evenly matched decks, where they're competing against each other. Both of them, shall we say, white control decks, specializing in being able to maintain control over their opponent. The unfortunate situation with that is that it has led to excessively long games in our match. During the break after the second game, I approached the players and tried to discuss some options with them on what they thought would be equitable and fair. They have come to the decision that they're going to play an additional game since they're evenly tied at 1-1 each. And that game will go for the championship of the first Pro Tour here in New York City. And they've both decided to split the purse for both second and first place.
Welcome back, Magic fans, for this third and final game of the Pro Tournament 1996 in New York City. And this match is getting underway. Henry, real quickly, any thoughts?
Well, we've had two grueling matches so far that have come right down to the wire. I don't see any reason why this match won't also take a while.
All right, right off the bat, both guys have played planes. Going into his second turn, Bertrand.
Again, Bertrand chose to play first again.
Interesting. Plays a Fellroy Stone. Over to Lecanto. Matches it up. Wizard School and Divine Offering. That's going to change the life total. It's 20 for Bertrand, 22 for Michael.
It's an interesting choice to Divine Offer the Fellroy Stone. Fellroy Stone turned out to be a problem for Lecanto in the first game because he couldn't play lands after an Armageddon because he didn't want to give Bertrand the mana from the Fellroy Stones.
Interesting enough. Plays a Strip Mine.
Lecanto seems like he has two more disenchants in his hand.
Wow, his hand is chock full of disenchants.
Yeah, that might have also been a reason why he chose to disenchant the Fellroy Stone.
That's true.
He's really a little more afraid of the Icy Manipulators and the land tax, but since he had the other two disenchants in his hand, I think it makes sense to get rid of the Fellroy Stone.
Just as we were talking, out came a millstone, and away went a millstone. That thing was in and out quickly.
Yeah, but Bertrand doesn't like to see the millstone out there.
Would not blame him at all. All right, he's got 3 planes and a strip mine in play.
Yeah,
he's going to use that strip mine to take out the
runes of Tricare.
Yeah, runes of Tricare,
which he could have sacrificed for 2 white. It seems like Bertrand's having a little trouble getting out the green mana here.
Wow.
It seemed like he had a lot of good green spells in his hand, but he couldn't. He can't cast any of them.
Out comes another millstone. It looks like Bertrand's not going to be able to do anything about that.
But he is able to slap down a Nirnam Jin.
Wow.
That gives Lecanto something to think about.
It's Lecanto's turn.
Yeah, both players seem to be playing a lot faster now.
Oh, yeah. The play is definitely at an accelerated rate. Lecanto plays a land tax.
Interesting.
It's now Lestray's turn. Lestray draws another strip mine.
Very interesting. I wonder what Lestray's going to choose to strip here.
Wow.
If he strips one of Lecanto's lands...
He's stripping that...
No, hold on. He's deciding.
Yeah.
Actually, potentially the stronger move might be to strip mine his own land. That way Lecanto couldn't land tax.
But indeed, he's going to take out the... It looks like he is taking out the...
It's
checking
really,
with the rules.
Yeah, it's really rather irrelevant which one he chooses to strip mine.
Right.
Because Lecanto will just be able to land tax and get more of those lands anyways.
Right. Maybe he shouldn't have even just played it himself, but do a Hernandez trick. Right?
Yeah, I think that what Lecanto was wondering about there is he was asking. He seemed like he chose the island first and then wanted to switch it to the plains. And I believe Tom Wiley said that since he hadn't let go of the strip mine yet, the spell wasn't, or the fast effect wasn't successfully finished.
Okay. Bertrand's Nirnam Jin attacks. Makes the score 19-18, but he used the brush land to bring up the Sylvan. That ties his game up at 18 up.
Yeah, remember how in the first game he was able to use that Sylvan Library to draw a lot of extra cards near the end of the game. I don't think, since Lecanto has a disenchant in his hand, it surprised me if that Sylvan Library stuck around for a long time.
Wow.
Although, I don't think he had any creature removal cards directly in his hand right now. See if we can get a look at it.
His hand, Lecanto's hand's just chock full of disenchants right now. He's got 3 of them in his hand. All right, he plays a Plains.
All right, I think he has a Wrath of God in his hand.
Ooh, that might be helpful. And he's going to he's going to disenchant the Sylvan Library. Enough of that drawn 3, take 1.
Yeah, but an Armageddon on Bertrand's part at this moment would be very strong if he has one.
It's 18 up, but here comes that Arnhem, and it looks like it's going to be unmolested with, and indeed, he's going to have to take it. That drops the score, 18 for Bertrand, 14 for Michael LeConte.
Does he have the Armageddon? Apparently not. If he had it, I'm sure he would have cast
No,
it.
he would have whipped that out by now, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So now this will be the second chance. He's taking his turn. Now,
Yeah.
This is the second time he's land taxed here. That's 6 additional lands that he's been able to draw out of his library.
Wow.
Now, that really hurts Bertrand's strategy for LeConte to be able to land tax like mad.
Wow.
Yeah,
Shuffling up the cards.
I mean, it's a 6-card advantage for LeConte. Also, later on in the game, it makes it so that his deck is thinner now, that it's just more chock full of good stuff. He's more likely to draw the swords and the Wrath of Gods that he needs to take out the Arnhem. Plus,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, plus, it also really nullifies the effectiveness of the Armageddon.
All right, there's 2, 2, and 2, and that's Wrath of God. That Arnhem Jin's going to go take a nap for a while.
God is angry. Arnhem is dead.
It's Lestray's turn.
Score still 18-18?
Yeah, no, it's 18-14. Yeah,
18-14.
it's 18-14 because he did get in an attack with that Arnhem.
He still has no creature removal directly in his hand.
God, those disenchants are just chalking up his hand.
Yeah, he does have a counterspell.
Well, that will be, and he does have the 2 blue.
Right, which I'm sure he's saving up for either the Autumn Willow or Armageddon.
Tapping a green. Looks like he's going to take a point off the brushland, a little painland action there. Definitely. Here comes a Whirling Dervish, and boy, tell us a little bit about the Whirling Dervish. We've heard so much about it.
Well, the Whirling Dervish is especially strong against a black deck because it has protection from black.
Right.
But also, if it's left unmolested, the Whirling Dervish can grow to enormous proportions. Every time it attacks and is not blocked, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and he doesn't have anything in his hand to stop it right away. This Arnhem could potentially cause a lot of trouble for LeConte.
Yeah, but LeConte is going to play a Mishra's Factory, hopefully deterring Lestray from attacking with that. But the scores right now, Lestray has 17 and LeConte has 14.
Yeah, the Mishra will be able to block the Whirling Dervish, and since the Dervish is just a 1/1, and the Mishra, when activated, will be a 2/2, it should be able to take it down.
All right, it's LeConte's turn. LeConte is going to...
Swords to Plowshares.
Lestray plays Swords to Plowshares on LeConte's Mishra's Factory, so that bumps up the score to 17-16, but the Dervish is going to attack, dropping it down to 17-15, I believe.
Yeah, now the Dervish is a 2/2.
Wow.
So if he brings out another Mishra's Factory, it won't be able to successfully block.
Michael sure could use a creature removal card at this point in the game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if he doesn't draw something quickly, that Dervish certainly is going to be a lot of trouble.
Oh, was...
That was.
Oh, Armageddon, but it was counterspelled.
Yeah, of course. He's got to.
Oh, wow. That could have been the game right there.
Certainly. That's the main reason the counterspells are in his deck, is to stop those must counterspell spells.
Right.
For Lestray, it's the Armageddons and the Autumn Willows.
Right. I believe he attacked with the Dervish again, so that drops the score to 17-13, and that Whirling Dervish is now a 3/3 critter.
Yeah, he'll be dead in 3 turns unless he draws something to stop it.
Wow.
And he has nothing in his hand.
Oh, boy.
Well, he does
the cupboard is bare.
Yeah, he does have a recall on the very left, so he could recall a Wrath of God.
That or Swords to Plowshares or something.
I don't think he's...
he
hasn't drawn a Swords to Plowshares yet.
Oh, yeah, that was... my bad, that was Lestray.
Yeah, it's a tough choice here. Does he? What does he recall, or does he use the recall?
Yeah.
Does he get the Wrath of God for the Arnhem Jinn? That's definitely a problem. Does he get a counterspell to stop an Armageddon, which would also be a serious problem?
Well, he'll have to tap a minimum of 3 lands to get that out, right? And even though he has Wizard School in play, he needs 1 available mana of any color to turn it into the blue he needs for a counterspell.
Right. If he casts recall, he won't be able to cast a counterspell this turn unless he plays another land.
Wow. So he's tapping
blue and 2.
Blue and 2 white.
Yeah, it must be the recall. Interesting. He has two choices here, really. One, what from his hand does he want to sacrifice for the recall? And two, what card does he want to get back? Really, the only logical choices are the Wrath of God and the Counterspell.
Yeah, so he's going to sacrifice a Plains, and he's going to get back a Counterspell.
Interesting. Oh, and he plays an Outer Card Waste.
Right, so it gives him a little more land now.
Well, also, that means he can also Counterspell.
Right,
a spell
definitely. So here comes Bertrand. I wonder what he drew. All right, he's going to attack with the Whirling Dervish. Wow. This game is definitely going a lot more rapidly.
Oh, we can't see, but 2 more cards. He has been able to millstone a lot more in this game than he was able to in the second.
Wow. Kanto draws another disenchant.
That's his 4th disenchant.
Wow,
he
all
really
4 of them
needs,
came up fast.
Yeah, that counterspell is not helping him out too much. He really needs a Wrath of God.
Yeah, he plays a Mishra's Factory. The turn before, Lestray had played a Finhorn Elf.
Now he'll be able to circuit both. Ooh, it looks like he has an Armageddon in his hand. Swords, Plowshares, and an Armageddon.
Wow.
If he's able to successfully cast that Armageddon, that could definitely be game over.
All right, both creatures attack.
Yeah, Lecanto has an interesting choice here. He can activate the factory, and it looks like that's what he's doing. And if he activates the factory, he has to choose which creature to block. If he blocks the Whirling Dervish, the factory will die, but it'll hold off the Dervish for a round, and the Dervish won't get bigger for a round. If he blocks the Elf, he can actually kill the Elf.
It's 17-13 right now.
And Bertrand just swords the Plowshares, the factory.
Oh, wow.
So that means that both creatures will get through, unless, of course, Lecanto chooses to use his counterspell to stop the swords.
Now, would it be wise for him to use a counterspell at this point?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, now Bertrand only has 1 card left in his hand. If that 1 card is an Armageddon, and we know it is, then he certainly wants to save the counterspell for that.
Wow.
But since he doesn't know what that card is, counterspelling the swords will actually stop the factory will be able to block the elf, and then he might have enough land to stop the dervish next turn.
Yeah, Michael Lecanto simply does not know, and he's got to go with a gut call here. Is he going to counter it?
This is a really tough choice. He's checking his graveyard here to see what spells he's already cast, to think about what he's likely to draw. He's only drawn so far the 1 Wrath of God. He has 3 more Wrath of Gods and 4 more Swords to Plowshares.
Wow, that Wrath of God's not going to mean much if that Armageddon flies on the table, though.
Yeah, he's asking Tom Wiley here about the Dervish, and if it's unblocked, does it go through and get another counter?
Uh-huh. Tom Wiley is the head judge for this one. Bill Rose sitting in on this one as the table judge.
Yeah, Lecanto also asked Tom Wiley that if he blocks with the Dervish, can you then pump it up to be 3/3 so that he could potentially block the Whirling Dervish? The thing is, if he since he just brought out the Mishra's Factory, he can't he can activate it to turn it into a creature to block, but since he just brought it out last turn and he hasn't started a turn with it in play, he can't use it to pump itself up on this turn.
He is going to counterspell the Swords to Plowshares. That leaves the Mishra's Factory in play. This may come back to haunt him, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, definitely Bertrand's going to cast the Armageddon.
Yeah, he definitely, the light is green and the trap is clean on this one.
Now Mike Lecanto has to decide what he wants to block.
What do you think he'll block?
Oh, I think at this point he's going to stop the elf, because if he blocks the elf, he'll actually kill it.
Right.
If he blocks the dervish, he could just stop it for a round, but his factory would go.
And hopefully he'll draw a Swords to Plowshare or something like that to take out the dervish.
He's going to need to draw something. Yeah, here he's asking Tom Wiley that can he tap the Mishra's Factory to pump it up to be a 3/3 creature, and what would happen if he does. If he did, it would be 3/3 and it would be tapped. So on defense, when a creature is blocking, if it's tapped, it deals no damage, but it still receives damage. However, technically, he can't even pump it up because he did turn it into a creature. Oh, and he really shouldn't be using the Mishra here to tap the Millstone, since the Mishra was a creature.
The Dervish went through. It's now 17-10.
Interesting. I think that one might have gotten by Tom Wiley. However, he did have the Wizard School out, so it was rather irrelevant.
Yeah. Out comes Serrated Arrows.
Serrated Arrows, interesting. It seemed like, did Bertrand not have the Armageddon in his hand?
I don't know.
I thought I saw an Armageddon there. If he'd had it, I'm sure he would have cast it.
He might. If he has it, he'll probably do it next turn. The
Serrated Arrows are interesting. It'll be able to sort of keep the Dervish at a 3/3 level, at least for 3 turns. But after that, the Dervish will continue to grow again. It'll kind of hold it at bay for a little bit.
Right. Still 17-7.
But it's kind of a big difference because without the Serrated Arrows, he would only have 2 turns because the Dervish hits him for 3, then hits him for 4, and he'd be dead. But with the Serrated Arrows, it'll hit him for 3, then hit him for 3 again, and it'll have actually 3 turns to try to pull something to stop it.
And it's Bertrand Lestray's turn.
He draws. Let's see what he drew if he chooses to play something. 4 mana.
That's Armageddon, baby.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, Michael Acanto's in a big heap of trouble right now.
Yeah, and he knows it. You can tell on his face.
Wow.
He uses the Serrated Arrows to make the Dervish 3/3.
And I think he's probably going to... Is he going to use mana to use the Millstone one last time?
Yeah, he might as well.
Yeah. I mean, all that land's going away.
Yeah, that really hurts.
Wow.
He's losing, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 land?
Oh, my goodness. That may very well be the game for him.
I mean, he has a land tax out, but I'd be very surprised if Bertrand decided to play land right now.
You know, especially with a creature getting bigger and bigger each turn.
He has no reason to play a land.
There's 3 more points of damage, and that's pretty much the tale. It's 17-7. Yeah, my mistake again. But it's 17-7 right now.
He's got basically 3 turns now to draw something. I think he has the plains in his hand. The only thing he could draw at this point would be Swords to Plowshares. Or if he draws another land, he could also draw the Balance.
Oh. He'll use the Serrated Arrows to drop him to a 3/3. They're going to get through, and that makes it 17-4. This game's almost over.
Yeah, if he doesn't draw something quickly,
what was it?
He's going to be in a lot of
That's Swords to
trouble.
Plow? Oh, that's exactly
Wow.
what he needed.
Wow.
Incredible.
What a pull.
Incredible.
What a pull.
Little sign there that he definitely got what he needed. Boom. That card's out of the game.
Yeah.
Wow, but he's still 17-4. I mean, Michael Acanto's definitely on the ropes.
Yeah, now 21-4.
It's 21-4 now. Wow.
Yeah, and he does have a Serrated Arrow, so he can stop an Elf if it should come out, or even stop an Order of Leaper. But Bertrand is still at some of an advantage here, seeing that Hal Lecanto is only at a 4 life.
Well, definitely. Michael Acanto got a respite back in the game.
Yeah, well, he's got a respite for a little while. Now, what does he have? 3 Disenchants, an
She still has
Island,
a Disenchant, yeah.
and a Fountain of Youth.
Now, do you think he'll play that land right away, or what do you think's going to happen now?
Well, he could play the land and then play the Fountain of Youth, but it seems like he's content just to hold on and let the game just go as it's going. Right now, Bertrand certainly doesn't want to play any more land until he can
Because
really
he's
do
got land
something.
tax, right.
Yeah, because Lecanto has a land tax out, and he doesn't want to allow him to land tax. However, that every turn that goes by with nothing happening like this is really an advantage for Lecanto, I think, because his deck is based around basically doing nothing, and the longer this keeps going on, the better off he is.
Another land tax drawn by Michael Lecanto. Yeah, he's really not paying any attention whatsoever to Bertrand Lestray's life count. It's more a matter of card count in the library.
Yeah, Bertrand does in fact have a land he can play, and I believe he has an Elf and a Divine Offering.
Wow.
And he's choosing to hold back and to wait until Lecanto decides to play land before he plays land.
Michael Lecanto plays that Fountain of Youth, hand size 2 maximum.
Also, the reason he's keeping his hand at 7 cards is in case he draws the Ivory Tower, he'll be able to immediately start gaining 3 life off of it.
Incredible.
Yeah, again, he's choosing not to. I think it looks like he's trying to decide what to discard.
Discard, amazing. He's gonna ride the strategy. Yeah,
He gets rid of the Hollow Ground.
Hollow Ground. I can probably see that one.
Well, I mean, if the game goes on for 20 more turns like this with nothing happening, Lecanto's going to win.
That's true. Yeah.
I really think that here Bertrand
draws another island, so he's got 2 islands, and he can play that counterspell that he has in his hand now.
Yeah, he has the 1 plane, so it'll take him a couple turns to get to the counterspell, but that just might tip the tide for him to decide to go ahead and start playing land. I mean, 1, he can start gaining life off the Fountain of Youth. He is just at 4 life. He's really in a difficult position. Yeah, you see, he does. Bertrand does have the Divine Offering and the Elf.
He'll go ahead and play a land tax. He's gonna maintain his strategy right now of 1 land to 1 land.
Yeah, I don't know how many turns have gone by here. How many turns have gone by here?
They're just barreling through these. Bertrand Lestray responds by playing a land tax. So it's dueling land taxes now.
Dueling land taxes. Very funny.
Yeah, that's why they pay me the big bucks.
Yeah, we saw this a lot, actually, in the pro tournament, that where 2 players would have land tax out, and neither player would want to play that second land to allow the other person to land tax.
Wow.
There
it goes.
Disenchant. Sure.
Good. Let's say goodbye to that land tax.
Sure. Now, what's interesting is that had Bertrand cast the land and cast Divine Offering on the Serrated Arrows and put down the Elf quickly, I think he might have been able to do the 4 points of damage to Lecanto before he would have recovered. But he chose to play slow and not allow Lecanto to land tax, and that might wind up costing him the game.
All right, little update. It's now 23-4. Bertrand plays Divine Offering on Lecanto's Millstone, so that Millstone's gone, and gives himself 2 more lives.
Chose the Millstone instead of the Serrated Arrows. I mean, the Millstone will shorten the game for Bertrand, and it is a problem for him. But right now, I think that Serrated Arrows might be the bigger problem.
Yeah, and in fact, it looks like he does play an Elf.
Okay.
And those Serrated Arrows are probably going to whack him out.
And Lecanto just gained a life.
Yeah,
from the,
off the fountain, so it's 23-5 now. Wow, Lecanto's playing it close to the edge, I'll tell you that much.
He used the arrows to squish the Elf.
All right, so those puppies are gone.
Yeah, that Elf was, or the arrows that was a problem for Bertrand. I mean, the arrows kept the Dervish at bay, which kept him in the game earlier, and now it stopped an Elf that potentially could have killed him. So it looks like Lecanto has a Deflection, a Wrath of God, a Counterspell, a Disenchant, and another island in his hand.
Wow. So this game is at least back on an even scale.
But you notice how it really seems to be sliding into Lecanto's hand here. He has a Wrath of God, he has a Counterspell. It's interesting how, when these games really slow down like this, I think it's to the advantage of Lecanto and the slower deck.
It was all Bertrand Lestray early on as he played in Armageddon, but Michael Lecanto pulled out that Swords to Plowshares that he desperately needed.
That was huge.
That was amazing. Well, score right now is 23, I believe, to 5. He may have used that Fountain of Youth last time.
And he's waiting, trying to decide whether he wants to put out another land or not, or whether he's just going to discard. And he chooses to discard Deflection. Yes,
shows it to the audience.
Yes, it is a deflection. It's interesting. When I spoke with Lecanto, he said that if he had time to go back and redo his deck again, that he probably wouldn't have had the deflection in Standard, and that he might not have even had it in his deck. It wasn't quite as useful as he thought it was going to be.
The score right now, as we got it, it's 23-5.
There's the second Elf.
Here comes that Elf.
And unfortunately, the Elf's really
going to... And he's going to use it to gain a life. It puts it at 23-6.
Oh, he has a Disenchant. Bertrand has a Disenchant. I was going to say that the Elf is really just going to be offset by the Fountain of Youth, so he needs to get something else out. But he has a Disenchant, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Bertrand Lestray disenchant that Fountain of Youth right now. 3 land. He says go ahead.
It's Bertrand's turn. Plays, what is it, Adakar Waste?
It's a brush line.
Oh, brush line?
And now it's 4 mana. If he has an Urnum Djinn or one of his big creatures, he could cast it.
He might not have it.
Again, see, Bertrand can't afford to just sit back and have these turns go by like this because his
he doesn't have it. You can bring out Icy.
And he has an Armageddon. He could cast the Armageddon, but it's of questionable value.
Yeah, with just an Elf out, that would probably not be the best bet.
Well,
and he's 20, so he's going to use.
Interesting.
Yep, he's going to disenchant the
Fountain of Youth.
Fountain of Youth.
He waited. Notice that he waited until he used it, and that way he had to tap the 2 mana to use it. So when Bertrand cast his disenchant, Lecanto couldn't counterspell.
Right.
Not that he necessarily would counterspell the disenchant on the Fountain of Youth, but it's an interesting note in just the style of play. And that a lot of times when you have an important spell to cast, you can sometimes wait till your opponent taps out to use an Icy or to use a Fountain or use a James Day Tome, and then disenchant the thing that you want to get rid of.
That elf had attacked. But the Fountain of Youth was used for one last time. We're back up to 23 to 6. 23 to 6, I believe the life count is. Both men obviously showing signs of fatigue. Who could blame them?
Yeah, well, Lecanto's now up to the magic 4 mana that he needs to cast so many spells. The Wrath of God, the Control Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he has a Control Magic in his hand. It'll be interesting to see if he chooses to control the elf. He probably will, just because...
And indeed, that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to take control of that elf.
Yeah.
But Bertrand's going to respond by Swords to Plowshares. That's going to up his life count to, I believe...
No, it doesn't, because he had to use the brush land.
Oh, he had to use the brush land to do it, so it cancels it out.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason he swords it in response to him casting it is he doesn't want Lecanto to gain control of the elf, because then if he swords it, Lecanto's going to gain the 1 life.
Right.
And the difference between 6 and 7 is pretty big when you're talking about just an elf hitting.
Yeah, especially at this stage of the game. How's, if we can get a good look at the library of...
Ice Manipulator.
Ice Manipulator is in play.
Yeah, it's a strong card for Bertrand right now, because he could use it to tap Lecanto's land so that he won't be able to counterspell. I think Lecanto still has some disenchants in his hand. It wouldn't surprise me to see one of those get fired off.
And
yeah,
speaking of which, there it goes. He's getting those disenchants unclogged that were causing him maybe some problems earlier.
And notice how he cast it right away during his turn.
Mm-hmm. Why did he do that?
Well, if he had waited until Bertrand's turn to cast the disenchant, it's conceivable that Bertrand could have tapped an island and then cast Armageddon or cast something else. And Lecanto definitely wanted to keep his 2 islands free to counterspell a potential Armageddon. It looks like Bertrand in his hand right now has an elf, a balance, and an Armageddon.
Another elf in play.
Yeah, that elf could do the job. If he successfully cast Armageddon here, 6 turns later, the elf could have Lecanto dead.
Wow.
Quite an embarrassing way to go to be.
To be beaten up by an elf.
Killed by an elf.
That's it. That's a badge of shame in some places.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Lecanto's going to do something to.
Oh, he drew Jester's Cap.
Jester's Cap. Interesting. That was a card from his sideboard that he brought in.
Well, what do you think he brought that in for?
Certainly the Armageddons.
But he's going to play Control Magic on that elf again, and Lestray responds identical before, but this time he will gain a life off of it, and the score count goes up to 24 to 6.
Yeah, the extra life for Bertrand is really somewhat meaningless. He really needs to get out a creature and then cast the Armageddon.
Oh, he just drew an Urnham Djinn. Out it comes immediately.
Sure. See, again, this is how Bertrand's deck is set up. Cast a big creature, then cast the Armageddon. Your opponent is left helpless and unable to stop it.
That's a Swords to Plowshares in his hand, and indeed, that's coming out. Boom! Plow that puppy away.
Yeah, you notice how he casts Swords to Plowshares right away?
Yeah.
Some blue-white players, might say that it's better to wait until your opponent's turn to cast Swords to Plowshares, but he doesn't want Bertrand to even have the idea of casting the Armageddon if he has it in his hand. He wants to let him know that, no, you will have no creatures, don't even think about casting the Armageddon.
All right, he strips, Lestray strips one of Lecanto's islands, and that, at least for right now, reduces the capability. Oh, balance was played.
Cast balance.
Wow.
Wow, this is really interesting. This is now the third match, and this is another reason for casting balance. Earlier we saw Lestray cast balance in order to effectively use it as an Armageddon when he had his Zern Orb in play. In the second game, we saw Lecanto casting balance effectively as a Wrath of God.
Right.
And here we see now Lestray casting balance and using it really as a mind twist.
Wow, this thing, the balance does 3 things in one. I gotta agree with you. It's probably one of the most potent card in Type 2 you're gonna find.
Yeah, it's powerful in Type 2. It's powerful in Type 1.
Wow.
And he goes down to 2 cards, and I think Lecanto had 7 cards in his hand.
Yeah, well, I think it actually might be 6.
7 or 6. Yeah, he's going to have to get rid of a lot of cards, and this is a difficult choice.
It'd be interesting to see what he gets rid of. Something tells me, he's only got he's got 2 planes and 1 island in play.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is that
it puts down a Mishra's
and Wrath of God. Wow,
Wrath of God.
Getting rid of both counterspells and the disenchant. The disenchant I can see going.
Maybe he's still deciding.
The cap I can kind of see going. The counterspells.
Nope, he's discarding them. Amazing.
Difficult choice. I mean, the Wrath of God is important. You need to be able to destroy the creatures. And he doesn't have the 2 blue to cast the counterspell. He does with the Mishras in his hand. He can cast the Wrath of God.
Mishras, I believe those are serrated arrows as well. It's Lestray's turn, and back to Lecanto's turn. Draws a strip mine.
Interesting. Now here they're both equal at 3 land. He could, play the strip mine, play the serrated arrows, and then if Lestray puts out a 4th land during Lecanto's upkeep, he could strip mine one of Lestray's land and then invoke the land tax in response using the strip mine. The same maneuver that Mark Hernandez used against me in last year's World Championships.
Wow.
But no, he chooses just to strip mine right away. This is tough. Now Lestray has to get 2 more land before he's able to cast that Urnum Djinn in his hand.
Both players seem to have 4 as their magic mana number.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you would think that Lestray's deck might be since it's an attacking deck, might be the less expensive deck, as you will.
Right.
Cards that are easier to cast. However, that's not the case. It turns out that Lecanto's deck...
Just drew another Millstone.
Millstone. The 3rd one. It actually turns out that Lecanto's deck is the more expensive deck with or that Lestray's deck is the more expensive deck with the more expensive spells. We just got the Black Vice out. It really has not been an effective card for Lestray against Lecanto. I mean, another interesting thing is he just cast the Balance, was it 2 turns ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, when Lecanto had, 6 cards in his hand? And now he draws a Black Vice after he's already down, after he used the Balance to, mind twist him down to 2.
Yeah, did he just draw that now? Did he just draw the Black Vice now?
Yeah, since Black Vice has been restricted, it's not as, you don't quite see it on the first turn as often as you used to.
Lecanto plays a Millstone. He's gonna go to work pounding on that library, which is looking mighty thin already.
Yeah, the game has gone on a long time. Lestray needs to get some mana, get out a creature, cast Armageddon.
Lecanto.
Is he thinking about? Oh, he's gonna mill during his own turn. Interesting.
Any advantage or disadvantage to doing that?
Well, mathematically, there's no reason why you should millstone before or after. And really for potential
another brush line.
Yeah, for potential bluffing reasons, he probably should have waited until Lestray's turn before he cast before he used the millstone, so he can at least maybe pretend to have a power sink.
Something tells me though Lestray's not exactly the bluffing kind of guy.
No, once you get to the advanced level, the bluffing is much less effective.
Yeah,
the good players make you show you their counter spells.
Indeed.
But Lestray disenchanted that millstone as well very quickly. That was his last millstone. And
he only had 3 in his deck?
Yeah, he only has 3 in his deck. And unless he decides to recall one later on, that'll be it.
Lecanto taking a look at Lestray's graveyard right now, which is getting bigger and bigger as the game goes on. Precisely how Lecanto wants to play this.
Yeah, he seems to be counting up his graveyard. He's looking for something. Land tax, disenchant, swords, another strip mine. No, he seems to be counting up the disenchants.
Counting out disenchants.
Let's see if we can see how many he has. It's 1,
2,
3, 4. Wow.
He's 4 disenchants.
Yeah, all 4 disenchants and 1 divine offering. That means that all Lestray is left with is 1 divine offering left in his deck.
Wow, and so with that in mind, he is going to play the serrated arrows.
Sure. That's a strong move on Lecanto's part. He checks to see how many disenchants does he have left. I mean, he doesn't want to just throw the serrated arrows out there willy-nilly to have it be disenchanted. But since he knows that since he knows that Lestray is low on disenchants and divine offerings, it's a pretty safe move.
Pretty tough situation Bertrand Lestray has to face. He has 2 Urnum Djinns in his hand and 3 mana. The 2 great tastes that do not taste great together.
Yeah, but look at that. Lecanto has 2 Wrath of Gods and
wow.
Sylvanite Temple.
Lecanto's definitely got Lestray's number right now.
Well,
this game is totally turned around.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think Bertrand still has the Armageddon in his hand.
Right.
And the thing is, he doesn't have enough mana to cast the Urnum and cast the Armageddon.
Out comes a card that should be renamed Lestray's Bane, Ivory Tower. And that's going to effectively cancel the Black Vice.
Yeah, I mean, that's strong, too, because potentially, this is an interesting point, potentially Bertrand could have won, maybe, if he had cast that Armageddon in his hand as soon as he got up to 4 mana, because that way the Black Vice might be good enough to come alone. But since he brought out a Runes of Troycare instead of a Plains, he wasn't able to use it right away. He had to wait a turn.
Wrath of God, clean the table, goodbye Urnum.
Yeah, he doesn't want to have any turns go by where Lestray could even think about casting Armageddon if he has a creature out.
He's probably going to try it again, but we know, and Lestray don't, that Lecanto's got that Swords to Plowshares in his hand.
Does he have a swords, or is
I
it
think
a second
I
Wrath
think
of
he's got
God?
No, that's swords. I
Yeah,
think.
swords and a Wrath of God.
Oh,
Both.
wow.
And now
Either way,
Counterspell.
he wants to do it. I think he's got it.
Wow, things are really seem to be falling into Lecanto's hands.
He's definitely drawing what he needs when he needs it.
He swords the Erdem Jin.
Yeah. Swords, and that's going to change the count to 28-6 for those of you keeping track at home.
Yeah, it looks like the Stray now has he has an Order of Leaper in his hand, but the serrated arrows that Lecanto has out
would shut him down immediately.
Yeah, I mean, you just squish it right away.
Squish it like a bug.
Yeah, he does have one more Divine Offering in his deck.
Well,
we'll see what happens.
He'll
but
probably be
Lecanto
getting to
still
it
has
here.
a Wrath of God. It's
Wow.
interesting that the serrated arrows right now is causing Lestray not to cast the Order of Leaper. I had a
Wow.
chance to talk to the French players before the event, and we were discussing which Homelands cards we thought were strongest, and they really had very little respect for serrated arrows. They didn't think it was a good card at all, but we've seen in this match that serrated arrows is quite a potent card.
Wow. Gonna have to agree with you there.
Actually, of the top 8 decks, I think 6 of the 8 decks used serrated arrows.
All right,
in
he's
them.
going to play Silver. How many cards does he have? Looks like he only has 2.
I think he's getting awfully low on his library.
Oh, wow. This match may very well be over here, folks. Lecanto's definitely on a run. Definitely running Lestray out of cards. He draws. He looks like a Sylvanite Temple.
Another one. But he has a counterspell in his hand.
And
He
he's
looks
trying,
at both cards.
He looks at both cards that he has left.
And technically, you can't do that with the Sylvan Library. You have to be able to look at 3 or just 1.
I don't think it's going to make that much difference.
No, at this point, I don't think so. It looks like Lecanto's got this wrapped up.
Wow. There is. I cannot think of anything Lestray can do. Lecanto looks like he's going to be.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Lestray concedes the match. Michael Lecanto of Boston, Massachusetts, has just become the first winner of the Pro Tournament.
Excellent.
Wow, look at it. There. You're going to give him a little roughing up.
And my hat's off to both players. They both
that was
played
excellent play.
extremely well, and it's certainly a pleasure to watch 2 top Magic players go at it.
Excellent play. That third match, of anything, was probably the quickest of them all.
I'm very happy to tell you the truth because I'm here in New York and I've played a lot, met a lot of people, and it was great. I mean, it was really great time. Was a bit unlucky at the last game, but that's magic. I mean, that's the way of this game, and I'm really happy. I can tell you.
I think that this is one of the best things that could have happened, and I think it was so well run, and the whole thing was just a lot of fun. And you guys are great. I mean, it was just really done well. I was very impressed with the whole thing.
Okay, so I hope we'll see you in Los Angeles.
I'll
in
be
May.
there. I'll be there.
These 2 gentlemen are the runner-up and finalists for the first Magic the Gathering Professional Tour. And how much did they win?
The 2 of them are going to be splitting a combined total of $17,000, taking home each $8,500.